The emergency council meeting had been called with unprecedented urgency across the Galactic Federation. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered in the massive crystalline chamber on Nexus Prime, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes under the artificial starlight. The air itself hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into coherent meaning. High Chancellor Vextari, a tall being with 4 arms and skin that shifted between blue and purple when stressed, stood at the center podium. The coloration was decidedly purple now. Around the chamber, delegates whispered among themselves in languages that sounded like music, grinding stone, or electronic static. Fellow beings of the Federation, Vextari began, his voice carrying to every corner through advanced acoustics. We face a threat unlike any in our recorded history. The Devourer fleet approaches our outer systems. Conservative estimates give us 18 standard cycles before they reach our core worlds. A wave of concerned murmurs swept through the chamber. The Devourers were legend among spacefaring civilizations, a robotic army that consumed entire star systems, converting matter into more ships for their endless expansion. No one knew who created them or why they existed. They simply appeared every few thousand years, devastating everything in their path before vanishing into dark space. Our combined military forces, continued the Chancellor, number approximately 40 million vessels. Intelligence reports suggest the Devourer fleet contains over 200 million units, with the ability to construct more from consumed matter. A delegate from the Peaceful Harmony worlds raised one of her 6 hands. Surely retreat is the logical option? We could evacuate the threatened systems and rebuild elsewhere. Evacuation of 37 billion sentient beings across 14 systems is impossible within our time frame, replied Admiral Zefkoth, the Federation's top military commander. His species, the Corvin, resembled giant mantises and were considered among the fiercest warriors in known space. Additionally, the Devourer's trajectory suggests they will not stop with our outer systems. This is a complete invasion. The chamber fell silent as the reality settled in. The Federation had enjoyed peace for nearly 2 centuries. Their combined fleets were designed for exploration and peacekeeping, not warfare on this scale. What of our defense agreements with independent systems? Asked another delegate. The warrior races beyond our borders? Admiral Zefkoth's mandibles clicked in what passed for a sigh among his people. The Krextani consider this a Federation problem. The Veltar have sealed their borders and refuse communication. The Taurasian Empire is dealing with civil war. Then, we fight with what we have, declared a representative from the Industrial Forge worlds. Our shipyards can work continuously until the enemy arrives. We have run comprehensive battle simulations, Admiral Zefkoth replied grimly. Even with maximum production and perfect tactical execution, our chance of victory is calculated at less than 7%. Desperate murmurs filled the chamber as delegates began calculating evacuation possibilities for their home worlds. Some species had been spacefaring for millennia, but none had faced extinction on this scale. There is one option we have not discussed, said a quiet voice from the observer section. All heads turned to see junior researcher Kilamos, a young Zentaurian whose species was known for their analytical abilities rather than speaking in council sessions. Chancellor Vextari gestured for her to continue, though protocol dictated that observers remain silent during council proceedings. 6 months ago, our deep space surveys identified a system on the galaxy's outer rim. Initial scans classified the 3rd planet as a Class 12 death world, essentially uninhabitable by Federation standards. However, follow-up studies revealed that this world not only supports life, but has produced a spacefaring civilization. The chamber buzzed with interest. Death worlds were rare phenomena, planets where conditions were so hostile that complex life shouldn't be possible. Yet occasionally, such worlds produced species with incredible resilience and adaptability. These beings, Kilamos continued, consulting her datapad, call themselves humans. Their planet, Earth, has gravity 30% higher than Federation standard, an aggressive magnetic field that deflects cosmic radiation, and weather systems that regularly produce devastating storms. The planet experiences periodic ice ages, meteor impacts, and massive volcanic eruptions. And they survived all this? Asked the delegate from the Garden Worlds, whose people required carefully controlled environments to thrive. More than survived, they thrived. Human civilization has endured countless natural disasters, resource scarcities, and internal conflicts. They have developed remarkable problem-solving abilities and an unusual capacity for violence when necessary. Admiral Zefkoth leaned forward. You're suggesting we contact a species from a death world? What makes you believe they would assist us? Human history indicates they have a psychological tendency to protect others, even at significant personal cost. They call it heroism. Additionally, their technological development suggests they could adapt quickly to space combat. One planet's worth of beings cannot possibly make a significant difference against 200 million Devourer ships, protested another admiral. Kilamos nodded. Correct, if we think in terms of raw numbers. However, Death World species possess capabilities that others lack. Humans demonstrate exceptional performance under stress, rapid adaptation to new technologies, and tactical creativity that our simulations cannot account for. Chancellor Vextari considered this. What would you propose, researcher? Send a diplomatic mission to Earth immediately. Request their assistance in developing new combat strategies and technologies. Even if they cannot provide large numbers of ships, their insights might give us advantages our current thinking cannot achieve. The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates argued that involving an unknown species in a galactic crisis was reckless. Others pointed out that conventional approaches had already failed in their simulations. The risk is acceptable, Admiral Zefkoth declared finally. Our current situation is hopeless. Any change in variables might improve our odds. I volunteer to lead the diplomatic mission, Kilamos said, surprising everyone. I have studied their culture extensively. Human cooperation is most easily gained through direct, honest communication rather than formal diplomatic protocols. Chancellor Vextari made his decision. Approved. Researcher Kilamos will lead a small team to Earth immediately. Use the fastest ship available. 3 days later, the Federation vessel Peaceful Intentions dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. The ship was sleek and white, designed to appear non-threatening to first-contact situations. Aboard were Kilamos, a small diplomatic staff, and a universal translator programmed with basic human languages. Receiving multiple scanning beams, reported the ship's sensor officer. The humans have detected our arrival. Expected, Kilamos replied. Their technology level suggests they monitor their system's boundaries. Open a communications channel on their standard frequencies. Channel open. This is Researcher Kilamos of the Galactic Federation to any human authority. We come seeking peaceful contact and urgent consultation. Please respond. The reply came quickly in accented English. Unknown vessel. This is Brigadier General Sarah Chun of United Earth Space Command. You are in violation of Earth's territorial space. State your intentions immediately. Kilamos felt a moment of admiration. Even faced with obviously superior alien technology, the human's voice remained steady and authoritative. General Chun, we request permission to enter your system for diplomatic purposes. We bring no weapons and seek your people's assistance in a matter of galactic importance. A pause. Assistance with what exactly? An enemy force is attacking our civilization. We believe your people's unique capabilities could help develop solutions that others cannot conceive. Another pause, longer this time. You're asking Earth to help fight your war? We are asking for your insights and expertise. The enemy threatens not just our Federation, but potentially all life in this galaxy. Stand by, alien vessel. 20 minutes passed before General Chun returned to the channel. Researcher Kilamos, you are cleared to approach Earth orbit. A delegation will meet you on our orbital station. Be advised that our defense systems are tracking you. Understood and appreciated, General Chun. We mean no harm. As the Peaceful Intentions moved toward Earth, Kilamos studied the increasing traffic around the planet. Human spacecraft moved with aggressive efficiency, their designs favoring function over beauty. Orbital installations bristled with what could only be weapons systems. Remarkable, murmured the ship's pilot. They've weaponized their entire system in less than a century of spaceflight. Kilamos nodded. Most Federation species took millennia to develop comprehensive space defenses, and, even then, they focused on deterrence rather than destruction. These humans had assumed that space would be hostile and prepared accordingly. The orbital station was massive and clearly military in design. As their ship docked, Kila_Moss wondered if they were making a terrible mistake. Deathworld species were unpredictable by definition. But, with extinction approaching, calculated risks were their only hope. General Chun met them at the airlock, accompanied by a diverse group of humans in military uniforms. She was shorter than average for her species, but moved with predatory confidence that reminded Kila uncomfortably of apex predators from various worlds. "Welcome to humanity's space," General Chun said without preamble. "You said something about needing fighters. Tell me about this enemy of yours." As Kila began explaining the Devourer threat, she noticed the human's expressions growing more intense rather than fearful. When she finished describing the impossible odds, General Chun actually smiled. 200 million ships against 40 million, the general mused. "And you came to us for help. Either you're desperate, insane, or very smart. All three possibilities are accurate," Kila admitted. General Chen's smile widened. "Good. Desperation breeds innovation. Insanity enables impossible plans. And smart means you might just survive what we're about to teach you. You will help us?" "Help you?" General Chen laughed, a sound that somehow conveyed both warmth and menace. "Lady, we're going to show you how humans fight wars. But first, you're going to show us everything you know about these Devourers." As Kila was escorted deeper into the station, she felt the first stirring of hope since the crisis began. These humans radiated confidence that bordered on arrogance, but something told her it was earned confidence. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that its children were about to be asked to save a galaxy. The war room aboard Orbital Defense Station Armstrong buzzed with activity that would have overwhelmed most Federation species. Dozens of humans moved between holographic displays, data terminals, and communication arrays with practiced efficiency. The cacophony of voices, electronic beeps, and mechanical sounds created an environment that Federation beings would find impossibly chaotic. General Chun guided Kila through the organized chaos to a central briefing area where Earth's top military minds had assembled. Admiral Rebecca Santos, commander of the Sol Defense Fleet, stood beside a three-dimensional tactical display showing the galaxy's outer rim. General Marcus Webb, head of Earth's Special Operations Command, studied intelligence reports on a tablet. Dr. Elena Vasquez, director of Advanced Weapons Research, manipulated holographic equations that hurt Kila eyes to follow. "Researcher Kila," General Chun announced, "meet the people who are going to save your Federation." "With respect," Kila_Moss replied carefully. "Your entire planet has fewer than 10 billion inhabitants. The Devourer fleet has been observed destroying civilizations with trillions of beings." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her equations. "Raw numbers aren't everything. Tell me about their ship designs." Kila activated a portable projector, displaying detailed scans of Devourer vessels. The ships appeared as geometric nightmares, perfect metallic polyhedrons that seemed to shift and reconfigure constantly. "Each unit is approximately 2 kilometers in length," she explained. "They demonstrate adaptive capabilities, reshaping themselves for different functions. Weapon systems appear to be energy-based, capable of reducing asteroids to component atoms within seconds." Admiral Santos frowned at the display. "No visible propulsion systems. How do they achieve faster-than-light travel?" "Unknown. They appear to fold space around themselves rather than using conventional drives. Our physicists cannot comprehend the mechanism." Commander Webb pointed to details in the scans. "Those geometric shapes, they're not random. There's a mathematical pattern to their transformations." "Correct," Kila confirmed. "Devourer behavior follows precise mathematical rules. They are completely predictable in tactical situations." The humans exchanged glances that Kila couldn't interpret. "Predictable," General Chun repeated slowly. "That's not a strength, that's a weakness." "How can predictability be a weakness?" "It allows for perfect coordination among their units." Dr. Vasquez smiled, an expression that somehow seemed dangerous. "Because predictable enemies can be manipulated." Show us their battle formations. Helamos displayed tactical recordings from previous Devourer encounters. The geometric ships moved in perfect mathematical patterns, creating formations that looked like three-dimensional fractals. Their attacks followed algorithmic sequences that maximized efficiency while minimizing resource expenditure. They're not thinking, Commander Webb observed. They're computing. Every move is calculated for optimal results based on current conditions. That is correct. The Devourers appear to be artificial intelligences rather than biological entities. This is why they are so dangerous. They make no mistakes, feel no fear, and never tire. But they also can't improvise, Admiral Santos said grimly. Their patterns might be perfect, but they're still patterns. General Chun turned to Dr. Vasquez. Elena, how long would you need to develop countermeasures based on these recordings? Give me 2 weeks and unlimited resources. I want to build something that will make these geometric monsters very unhappy. You have both. Admiral Santos, what's our fleet status? 300 ships of various classes, all equipped with experimental weapons. Not nearly enough for direct confrontation, but if we're talking about surgical strikes, we're talking about something much more ambitious, General Chin said. Helamos, I need you to contact your Federation immediately. Tell them we're accepting their request for assistance, but we're doing this the human way. What does that mean? It means we're not going to fight their war, Commander Webb explained. We're going to teach them how to win it. Over the following days, Helamos watched in fascination as humanity mobilized for war. Unlike Federation species, who relied on careful planning and consensus building, humans seemed to thrive on organized chaos. Multiple projects proceeded simultaneously, with teams collaborating and competing in ways that should have been inefficient but somehow produced rapid results. Dr. Vasquez's weapons research team worked 18-hour shifts developing new technologies. They called their approach aggressive innovation, combining existing human weapons concepts with Federation technology to create hybrid systems that neither side could have developed alone. Commander Webb's tactical analysts studied every piece of Devourer intelligence, looking for patterns within patterns. They had identified 17 distinct behavioral algorithms that govern Devourer actions in different situations. Admiral Santos supervised crash training programs where human pilots learned to operate Federation spacecraft, while Federation crews learned human combat tactics. The cultural exchange was often explosive, literally, in some cases, but produced unprecedented tactical combinations. Your people learn remarkably quickly, Helamos observed as she watched a human pilot execute a maneuver that Federation tacticians considered impossible. Survival trait, General Chun replied. Deathworlds don't give you time for gradual education. You adapt fast or you die young. The first major breakthrough came from Dr. Vasquez's team. They had developed what they called chaos weapons, devices that introduced random variables into Devourer targeting systems. Since the geometric ships relied on perfect calculations, introducing unpredictability into their sensor data created cascading errors. The beautiful thing, Dr. Vasquez explained to the assembled commanders, is that we're using their strength against them. The more perfectly they try to calculate, the more the random variables compound their errors. How effective is it? Admiral Santos asked. In simulations, chaos weapons reduce Devourer combat efficiency by 60%. In reality, the effect might be even greater. The second breakthrough came from Commander Webb's tactical analysis. His team had discovered that Devourer formations, while mathematically perfect, contained a critical flaw. They optimized for individual ship survival, he explained, manipulating a holographic battle display. Each unit calculates its best position based on protecting itself while maintaining formation integrity. But if you force them to choose between self-preservation and formation maintenance, the display showed Devourer ships breaking formation to avoid targeted attacks, creating gaps that smaller, more agile forces could exploit. Divide and conquer, General Chin nodded approvingly. Classic human strategy. How do we implement it on this scale? We teach every Federation pilot to think like a human fighter, Commander Webb said. Aggressive, unpredictable, and willing to take calculated risks. The third breakthrough was Admiral Santos's integration of human and Federation technologies. Human ships were smaller and more maneuverable than Federation vessels, while Federation ships had superior shields and energy weapons. By combining both design philosophies, they created hybrid vessels that could strike hard, move fast, and survive encounters with superior numbers. It's not about having the biggest fleet, Admiral Santos explained to a group of Federation admirals via secure communication. It's about having the most effective fleet. Quality over quantity. 3 weeks after the initial contact, humanity was ready to present their solution to the Federation Council. The presentation would be delivered via real-time holographic communication, allowing Earth's military leaders to address the assembled delegates directly. Honorable Council members, General Chen began, standing in the war room that had become humanity's contribution to galactic defense. The human species accepts your request for assistance against the Devourer threat. The relief among Federation delegates was palpable, even through the holographic link. However, General Chun continued, we will not be sending our fleets to reinforce your battle lines. Instead, we offer something far more valuable, a completely new approach to warfare that will transform your 40 million ships into an unstoppable force. Chancellor Vextari leaned forward. Explain this new approach. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her chaos weapon schematics appearing above the council chamber. The Devourer's predictability is their weakness. These weapons introduce calculated randomness into their sensor networks, degrading their combat effectiveness by at least 60%. Commander Webb followed with his tactical analysis. Devourer formations can be systematically disrupted using aggressive hit-and-run tactics. We have identified 43 specific weak points in their standard battle configurations. Admiral Santos presented the hybrid ship designs. By combining human and Federation technologies, we can create vessels that are both survivable and lethal. Your current ships can be retrofitted with these modifications in a matter of weeks. The council chamber buzzed with excited discussion as delegates realized the implications. You are offering to refit our entire fleet, asked Admiral Zevkoth. We're offering to revolutionize your entire military philosophy, General Chen replied. But it requires complete commitment. Your crews will need to abandon traditional Federation tactics and learn to fight like humans. What does that mean? Chancellor Vextari asked. It means accepting that sometimes the impossible is just another word for difficult, General Chen said. It means being willing to take risks that your computer models say are foolish. It means trusting your instincts even when they contradict your training. And if we agree to this transformation, then, in 6 weeks, when the Devourers reach your outer systems, they're going to discover that the peaceful Federation they expected to consume has been replaced by something they can't calculate, can't predict, and can't defeat. A vote was called immediately. The result was unanimous. The Federation would accept humanity's offer and commit to total military transformation. As the communication link closed, Helamos turned to General Chun. Do you really believe your tactics can overcome such overwhelming odds? General Chun smiled that predatory smile again. Researcher, my species survived ice ages, meteor impacts, global wars, and 1,000 different ways that our planet tried to kill us. We didn't just survive, we turned every disaster into an opportunity to become stronger. And now we're going to teach the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens people we've decided to protect. The Devourers think they're about to consume a peaceful Federation. Instead, they're about to meet something their programming never accounted for, the fury of a species that never learned how to give up. As humanity's war machine began its transformation of Federation military power, none of them realized they were about to encounter something even more dangerous than the Devourer fleet. They were about to discover what happened when human protective instincts were applied to an entire galaxy. The Federation military training facility on Nexus Prime had been transformed beyond recognition. What was once a serene academy focusing on peacekeeping and exploration now resembled a fusion between a human boot camp and an alien war college. The carefully maintained gardens had been replaced with tactical simulation centers, and the quiet halls echoed with shouted commands in dozens of languages. Commander Webb stood before a mixed group of Federation officers, his voice carrying the authority that had shaped human special forces for generations. Before him sat representatives of 12 different species, their various anatomies creating a bizarre classroom that would have been impossible just months ago. Forget everything you know about space combat, Webb began, his words translated instantly into the delegates' native languages. Your previous training taught you to minimize casualties and achieve objectives with maximum efficiency. Human warfare operates on different principles. A Zentorian officer raised one of his elongated appendages. Commander, our tactical simulations indicate that human strategies result in higher casualties among our own forces. Initially, yes, Webb acknowledged. But those simulations assume you'll fight like Federation officers. Human tactics aren't about preserving individual units. They're about preserving the mission and the people you're protecting. He activated a holographic display showing the most recent Devourer movements. The geometric ships had consumed 3 uninhabited systems on the galaxy's outer rim, their formations moving with mechanical precision toward Federation space. The enemy assumes you'll behave predictably. They've calculated your responses based on 2 centuries of Federation military doctrine. Every simulation they run confirms that they'll win because they expect you to fight efficiently and rationally. A Corvan admiral clicked his mandibles skeptically. And humans do not fight rationally. We fight to win, Webb replied simply. Rationality is a tool, not a constraint. Sometimes the most rational action is to do something completely insane. On the other side of the facility, Dr. Vasquez supervised the installation of chaos weapons on a Federation destroyer. The process required completely rewiring the ship's targeting systems and adding crystalline matrices that hurt most aliens' eyes to look at directly. The harmonics are all wrong, complained the ship's harmonic engineer, a being whose species communicated through musical frequencies. These devices create discord in our sensor networks. That's the point, Dr. Vasquez explained patiently. Discord is just another word for unpredictability. Your sensors are trying to create perfect harmony with incoming data. These chaos generators introduce random variables that force the Devourer's targeting computers to recalculate constantly. She demonstrated on a small-scale model. When activated, the chaos generator created a field that made the model ship appear to flicker between multiple positions simultaneously. Any targeting system trying to lock onto it would receive conflicting data with each scan. But this will affect our own targeting as well, the engineer protested. Not if your gunners learn to shoot like humans, Dr. Vasquez said. Instinct, experience, and educated guesses. Your computers can't calculate perfect shots when perfect data doesn't exist. But a good human gunner can hit a target based on gut feeling and pattern recognition. Meanwhile, Admiral Santos worked with Federation shipyard engineers to retrofit an entire battle group with human tactical systems. The process was radical. Federation ships were designed for comfort and efficiency during long voyages, while human modifications prioritized survivability and firepower. The power distribution makes no sense, argued a Forge World engineer whose species had been building spacecraft for millennia. You're sacrificing life support efficiency for redundant weapon systems. In human military philosophy, the best life support system is the one that keeps you alive by killing the enemy first, Admiral Santos replied. These modifications mean your ships can take damage and keep fighting instead of withdrawing to prevent casualties. The engineers studied the blueprints with growing horror. This design accepts that some crew members will die during combat. That design ensures that most crew members will survive the war, Santos corrected. Federation ships are built to avoid casualties. Human ships are built to accept casualties in order to prevent defeat. The cultural clash was evident throughout the training process. Federation species had evolved beyond warfare through cooperation and careful resource management. Humans had evolved beyond warfare by becoming exceptionally good at it when necessary. Captain Maria Rodriguez, one of Earth's most experienced combat pilots, worked with a group of Federation pilots on aggressive maneuvering techniques. The training simulator recreated the claustrophobic environment of close-quarters space combat. Your natural instinct is to maintain safe distances, Rodriguez explained as her mixed-species class strapped into simulator pods. Human pilots get close enough to see the enemy's running lights. That proximity increases the probability of mutual destruction, observed a pilot from the risk-averse caution worlds. It also increases the probability of enemy destruction, Rodriguez replied. In human combat doctrine, trading your life for multiple enemy lives is considered acceptable mathematics. The simulation began with the trainees facing a small group of Devourer ships. Following Federation doctrine, they maintained long engagement ranges and attempted to wear down the enemy through sustained fire. The result was predictably disastrous. The Devourers' superior numbers and perfect coordination systematically eliminated the Federation forces. Reset, Rodriguez called. This time, we do it the human way. She demonstrated the technique herself, diving her simulated fighter directly into the Devourer formation at maximum acceleration. The geometric ships tried to adjust their positions to maintain optimal spacing, but Rodriguez's aggressive approach forced them to choose between formation integrity and self-preservation. See how they hesitate, she called out as her fighter wove between massive Devourer ships, weapons blazing at point-blank range. Their programming can't handle a target that deliberately enters their kill zone. They have to recalculate optimal responses, and those milliseconds of hesitation are when you hurt them. Her demonstration destroyed 3 Devourer ships before her fighter was finally eliminated, but the geometric formation was now broken and vulnerable. Your turn, Rodriguez announced. Remember, scared pilots get killed. Angry pilots kill enemies. Choose which one you want to be. The transformation wasn't limited to military personnel. Dr. Kilamos found herself working with human engineers to develop new communication protocols for multi-species fleet operations. The challenge was immense. Federation species communicated through everything from pheromone releases to electromagnetic pulses, while humans relied heavily on verbal communication and visual cues. The key is not perfect understanding, explained Lieutenant Sarah Kim, a human communication specialist. It's rapid understanding. In combat, you need to know what your allies are doing immediately, not after a careful translation process. They developed a hybrid system using simple universal symbols combined with emotional indicators that most species could interpret instinctively. A red symbol meant immediate danger, yellow meant caution, and green meant all clear. Emotional markers, urgency, confidence, fear, aggression, were transmitted through frequency modulation that bypassed conscious thought and triggered instinctive responses. It's crude compared to proper diplomatic communication, Kilamos admitted. But it works when people are shooting at you, Kim replied. Crude and effective beats elegant and dead. As the weeks passed, the transformation became evident in ways that surprised everyone. Federation officers who had spent their careers avoiding risk began volunteering for dangerous assignments. Engineers who had always prioritized safety began designing systems that accepted calculated risks to achieve superior performance. Pilots who had been trained to retreat from unfavorable odds began developing tactics that turned disadvantages into opportunities. The change was most visible during the first large-scale training exercise. A mixed Federation human fleet of 50 ships faced a simulated Devourer force of 200 units. Using traditional Federation tactics, the scenario had been run dozens of times with consistently disastrous results. This time, the Federation forces moved like a pack of human fighters rather than a civilized military formation. They used chaos weapons to disrupt Devourer targeting, while aggressive strike groups punched holes in the geometric formations. When individual ships took damage, they didn't retreat for repairs. They used their dying moments to cause maximum enemy casualties. The simulation ended with the Federation fleet losing 37 ships, but destroying all 200 Devourer units. Impossible, whispered Admiral Zevkoth as the results appeared on the tactical display. The mathematics clearly indicate this outcome should not occur. The mathematics are wrong, General Chen replied. Your equations assume rational actors making optimal decisions. Humans are neither rational nor optimal, we're adaptive. We change the variables that your enemies are counting on. Chancellor Vextari studied the simulation results with growing amazement. Your strategies work by making our forces behave irrationally. Our strategies work by making your forces behave unpredictably, Chen corrected. Rationality is predictable. Adaptability is not. The real test came when long-range sensors detected the Devourer fleet entering Federation space. The geometric ships moved in perfect formation, their trajectory aimed directly at the Federation's most populated systems. Their approach was methodical, inevitable, and terrifyingly precise. Enemy fleet confirmed at 47 light-years and closing, reported the sensor operator. Estimated arrival at the outer defense perimeter in 72 hours. Admiral Santos stood before the largest fleet ever assembled in Federation history. 43 million vessels of various classes, now equipped with human weapons and crewed by beings who had learned to think like human warriors. The sight was magnificent and terrible, a peaceful civilization transformed into an instrument of war. All ships, this is Admiral Santos, she broadcast across the fleet communication network. In 64 hours, we're going to show the Devourers something they've never encountered before. The fury of a species that refuses to be consumed. The response was immediate and deafening. 43 million voices, representing dozens of species, roared their approval across every frequency. For the first time in Federation history, an entire civilization was united not by the desire for peace, but by the determination to fight. Remember your training, Santos continued. Remember your purpose. And remember that today, you are not fighting as separate species or individual ships. Today, you fight as humans fight, together, without fear, and without mercy for enemies who threaten what you protect. As the combined fleet moved toward the outer defense perimeter, Helamos stood beside General Chun on the command bridge of the Federation flagship. The massive vessel had been retrofitted with human tactical systems and chaos weapons, its peaceful exploration configuration replaced with the brutal efficiency of a human warship. Do you really believe this will work? Helamos asked. General Chun watched the tactical display as millions of ships moved with the coordinated aggression of a human military formation. I believe that the Devourers are about to learn the most important lesson in human military history, which is, never threaten something that humans have decided to protect. Because once we make that decision, we don't stop fighting until everything that threatened our people is dead or we are. In the distance, sensors detected the approaching geometric perfection of the Devourer fleet. 200 million ships moving with mathematical precision toward what they calculated would be an easy victory over a peaceful civilization. They were about to discover that the civilization they had come to consume no longer existed. In its place waited something far more dangerous, the combined fury of an entire galaxy that had learned to fight like humans. The space around the Kepler defense line was filled with controlled chaos that would have been impossible to imagine just months earlier. 43 million ships from across the Federation had formed into battle groups that defied every principle of traditional military formation. Instead of the neat geometric patterns that had defined Federation fleet movements for centuries, the assembled forces moved like schools of predatory fish, fluid, aggressive, and utterly unpredictable. Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Determination, watching tactical displays that showed the approaching Devourer fleet. 200 million geometric ships moved with mechanical precision, their formations creating mathematical patterns that hurt to observe directly. Each ship was a perfect polyhedron of dark metal, constantly shifting between configurations as they approached their target. Enemy fleet entering weapons range in 47 minutes, reported Commander Yextar, a Zentorian officer who had learned to think like a human tactical analyst. Their formation indicates they expect traditional Federation defensive positions. Then, let's disappoint them, Santos replied. Signal all battle groups. Execute Human Doctrine 7. Across the defense line, Federation ships began moving in patterns that violated every rule of conventional space warfare. Instead of forming defensive shells around key positions, they scattered into seemingly random clusters. Chaos weapons activated simultaneously, creating sensor ghosts and false readings throughout the combat zone. On the bridge of the destroyer Swift Vengeance, Captain Zekmoth of the warrior Corvin species watched his mixed crew prepare for combat. Humans worked alongside beings whose species had been peaceful for millennia, all united by the aggressive determination that had become the Federation's new military doctrine. Chaos weapons online, reported the human weapons officer, Lieutenant Torres. Enemy targeting systems should be getting some very confusing data right about now. Confirmed, added the Zentorian sensor specialist. Devourer ships are beginning computational cycles to resolve targeting conflicts. Their formations are slowing to accommodate increased calculation time. Captain Zekmoth clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The geometric ships were doing exactly what human tactical analysis had predicted, sacrificing speed and efficiency to maintain mathematical precision. It was a trade-off that human warriors would never make. The first contact came when Devourer scout ships encountered the Federation's outer perimeter. The geometric vessels moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in calculated patterns designed to eliminate threats with minimal energy expenditure. Instead of meeting defensive positions, they found empty space filled with sensor phantoms created by chaos weapons. Their targeting computers tried to lock onto ships that flickered between multiple positions, their perfect algorithms struggling to process data that deliberately made no sense. First blood to us, reported Commander Webb from the stealth destroyer Shadow Strike. His ship was invisible to Devourer sensors, positioned directly in their flight path using a tactic that Federation doctrine would have considered suicidal. Enemy scout formation is experiencing cascade failures in their targeting matrices. The Devourer scouts tried to adapt, running new calculations to account for the false sensor data. During those crucial seconds of recalibration, human-trained Federation gunners opened fire with weapons that ignored computer-assisted targeting in favor of trained instinct. The battle began in earnest as the main Devourer fleet encountered the Federation battle line. What they found was unlike anything in their programming. Instead of organized defensive formations, they faced swarms of ships that moved with organic unpredictability. Federation vessels that should have maintained safe distances dove directly into Devourer formations, forcing the geometric ships to choose between optimal positioning and immediate survival. All ships, this is Admiral Santos. The Admiral's voice carried across the fleet communication network. Remember, we're not here to trade shots at safe distances. We're here to break their formations and destroy them completely. Engage at close range and make every shot count. The response was immediate and devastating. Federation ships accelerated to attack velocities that their original designs had never been intended to handle. Chaos weapons created electromagnetic storms that turned the geometric precision of Devourer formations into confused tangles of metal. Human-taught Federation pilots executed maneuvers that their own computer systems warned were impossibly dangerous. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding the carrier Defiant Spirit, led her fighter squadrons in attacks that Federation tactical doctrine would have classified as mass suicide. Her pilots, a mixture of humans and aliens who had learned to think like humans, dove directly into formations of Devourer ships that were 10 times their size. Red Squadron, follow me into that formation center, Rodriguez commanded as her fighter accelerated toward a cluster of massive geometric vessels. Remember, scared pilots don't come home. Angry pilots bring their squadrons home. Her fighters scattered the Devourer formation by forcing individual ships to maneuver defensively, breaking the mathematical perfection that their coordination required. When the geometric ships tried to recalculate optimal positions, human-trained gunners were already firing at targets that no longer existed where their computers indicated. The battle evolved into something unprecedented in galactic warfare. The Devourer's perfect algorithms were designed to counter rational opponents who would attempt to minimize their own losses while inflicting maximum damage on the enemy. Instead, they faced enemies who accepted heavy casualties in order to force mathematical impossibilities on their opponents. Dr. Vasquez watched from the command center as her chaos weapons turned the tide of battle in ways that conventional tactics could never have achieved. The Devourer fleet's numerical superiority meant nothing when their targeting systems couldn't acquire reliable locks on enemies that refused to behave according to predictable patterns. Chaos weapon effectiveness exceeding projections, she reported to Admiral Santos. Enemy computational cycles are increasing exponentially as they attempt to process contradictory data. Some formations are experiencing complete system failures. How long until they adapt? Santos asked. Their programming is based on mathematical optimization, Vasquez replied. To adapt to chaos requires accepting inefficiency, which contradicts their core algorithms. They literally cannot learn to be less perfect. The weakness was brutal and absolute. Devourer ships began experiencing cascade failures as their computers tried to calculate optimal responses to deliberately irrational situations. Formations dissolved as individual ships prioritized computational stability over coordinated tactics. Commander Webb led a strike force of destroyers in an attack that human doctrine called aggressive breakthrough. Instead of attempting to wear down Devourer defenses, his ships punched directly through the center of enemy formations, accepting damage in order to reach the command vessels that coordinated each geometric group. Target their formation controllers, Webb ordered as his ship shook under enemy fire. Take out their coordination nodes, and the rest will become isolated targets. The tactic worked with devastating effectiveness. Devourer formations that lost their coordination nodes began operating as individual ships rather than unified forces. Their mathematical precision became a weakness as each ship tried to optimize its own position without regard for supporting its neighbors. The turning point came when Captain Kilamos, now commanding her own destroyer, executed a maneuver that would have been impossible under Federation doctrine. Her ship, badly damaged and losing atmosphere, accelerated directly into the center of a massive Devourer formation. "All hands, prepare for ramming speed," she announced, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Today we show these machines what organic beings do when our families are threatened." Instead of ramming, however, Kilamos used her ship's momentum to deploy every chaos weapon simultaneously at point-blank range. The electromagnetic pulse that resulted crashed the targeting systems of every Devourer ship within a 50-kilometer radius. Her destroyer was destroyed in the process, but the geometric formation collapsed completely, creating a gap in the enemy line that other Federation forces immediately exploited. The message was broadcast across the entire fleet. "This is Captain Kilamos. Remember, we are not fighting for mathematics or efficiency. We fight for our children, our worlds, and our future. Make these machines understand that some things cannot be calculated." The human philosophy had infected the entire Federation fleet. Beings from species that had never known warfare began executing tactics that prioritized victory over survival. The mathematical certainty of Devourer dominance crumbled against an enemy that refused to behave rationally. Admiral Santos watched the tactical display as Devourer formations throughout the combat zone began fragmenting under the pressure of enemies that wouldn't follow the rules. The geometric perfection of their approach had become a chaotic rout as individual ships fled computational overloads that their programming couldn't resolve. "All battle groups, this is Admiral Santos," she broadcast. "The enemy line is breaking. Execute final assault protocols. Show them what happens when you threaten a galaxy that has learned to fight like humans." The final phase of the battle was less warfare than it was extermination. Devourer ships that had been designed to operate in perfect coordination found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Federation forces that had learned human tactics hunted down individual geometric vessels with predatory efficiency. Captain Zekmotha's destroyer Swift Vengeance was typical of the transformation. His crew, Corvin warriors, Zentorian analysts, human gunners, and engineers from a dozen other species, worked together with a coordination that transcended their biological differences. They had become something new, a truly galactic military force united by human military philosophy. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Torres as her weapons systems locked onto a fleeing Devourer ship. "Permission to engage?" "Granted," Zekmoth replied. "Show them that mercy is a privilege earned by enemies who don't threaten innocence." The destroyer's hybrid human Federation weapons systems reduced the geometric ship to its component atoms in seconds. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as the remnants of the Devourer fleet were systematically hunted down and destroyed. When the battle ended 6 hours later, the space around the Kepler defense line was filled with debris that would take decades to clear. Of the 200 million Devourer ships that had approached Federation space with mathematical certainty of victory, fewer than 50,000 had escaped into deep space. The Federation had lost 8 million ships, a casualty rate that would have been unthinkable under their previous military doctrine. But They had achieved something that no civilization in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had defeated the Devourers in open battle. Admiral Santos stood before the representatives of 43 million surviving ships, her voice carrying to crews that had learned to fight with human determination. "Today, we discovered something that the Devourers could never calculate," she announced. "We learned that mathematics cannot measure the fury of beings who refuse to surrender what they love. We learned that perfect algorithms cannot defeat imperfect courage." The response from 43 million voices was deafening, a roar of triumph that carried across every frequency and in every language. The Federation had won not by becoming better at mathematics, but by learning to be human when humanity was required. As the fleet began recovery operations, Kilomas's final transmission echoed through the communication networks. "We are not fighting for mathematics or efficiency. We fight for our children, our worlds, and our future." It had become the Federation's new military doctrine, written in the debris of an enemy that had thought themselves invincible. The galaxy had learned to fight like humans, and nothing would ever threaten it the same way again. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Defense Line, the Federation had transformed into something unrecognizable from its peaceful origins. The crystal chambers of Nexus Prime now housed a permanent war council, where representatives from dozens of species planned defensive strategies that would have been unthinkable before humanity's intervention. The gentle gardens had been replaced with memorial walls listing the 8 million beings who had died learning to fight like humans. General Chun stood before the assembled delegates, her uniform bearing new decorations that represented a galaxy's gratitude. Behind her, holographic displays showed the current state of Federation space. 43 star systems now protected by defensive networks that combined human aggression with alien technology. "The immediate threat has been neutralized," she reported to the Council. Long-range sensors confirm that the surviving Devourer units have retreated beyond the galactic rim. Their fleet is no longer capable of sustained operations. Chancellor Vextari, his skin shifting between blue and silver with emotions that had no human equivalent, leaned forward. "But they will return, will they not? The historical record indicates that Devourer fleets rebuild themselves during their dormant periods." "Probably," Chin agreed. "But next time, they'll face a galaxy that knows how to fight. The Federation you were 3 months ago no longer exists. You've become something the Devourers can never calculate or defeat, a civilization that chooses courage over comfort." Dr. Vasquez, now Director of Galactic Defense Research, activated a series of technical displays. The Chaos weapon technology has been successfully integrated into all Federation ship classes. More importantly, the psychological transformation has proven permanent. Your people think differently now. Admiral Santos, bearing the new rank of Supreme Fleet Commander, nodded in agreement. The casualty rates from Kepler were devastating by Federation standards. 20% losses would have been considered a military disaster before human involvement. But your people learned that acceptable losses in service of ultimate victory are better than perfect preservation leading to total defeat. Commander Webb, now head of the new Federation Special Operations Command, addressed the cultural implications. Your species have maintained the cooperative instincts that made the Federation possible, but added the aggressive determination that makes you capable of protecting what you've built. It's an unprecedented evolutionary leap. The transformation was visible in every aspect of Federation society. On the industrial forge worlds, factories that had produced exploration vessels now manufactured hybrid warships that combined human lethality with alien efficiency. The peaceful garden worlds had established military academies where young beings learned tactical thinking alongside traditional diplomacy. Most dramatically, the warrior species that had refused to assist during the crisis were now requesting Federation membership. The Krextani Empire, whose leaders had dismissed the Devourer threat as a Federation problem, sent ambassadors bearing formal apologies and requests for military alliance. "We underestimated the significance of your transformation," admitted Ambassador Krexval, his reptilian features showing emotions that translated roughly as humility and respect. "Our intelligence services reported that humans had made the Federation more aggressive. They failed to understand that humans had made you evolutionary superior. The Veltar Confederacy, which had sealed its borders during the crisis, now requested access to human military doctrine. Their representative, a crystalline being whose species communicated through light patterns, pulsed urgently as she spoke. Our isolation protected us from the Devourers, but it also revealed our weakness, she transmitted. We possess advanced technology and defensive capabilities, but we lack the psychological framework necessary for protection of others. We wish to learn this human courage that has transformed the galaxy. Even the Taurasian Empire, still recovering from civil war, had sent observers to study how the Federation had achieved unity through shared military purpose. Their delegation was led by War Marshal Thexandra, whose species resembled armored centipedes and had been considered among the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. We have studied the battle recordings, the War Marshal clicked through her translator. Human tactics should not have succeeded against Devourer numerical superiority. Your victory represents principles that our own military academies cannot comprehend. General Chen smiled, an expression that now carried different meaning than it had months earlier. Your academies teach warfare as a profession. Humans taught the Federation to fight as a responsibility. Explain the distinction. Professional warriors fight to win battles. Responsible warriors fight to protect others. The motivation changes everything. The distinction was evident in the new Federation military structure. Unlike traditional military hierarchies based on experience and tactical knowledge, the human-influenced command structure prioritized leaders who demonstrated protective instincts toward their subordinates and civilian populations. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding the supercarrier Defiant Spirit, exemplified this new leadership philosophy. Her bridge crew consisted of beings from 7 different species, all united by their shared commitment to protective warfare rather than conquest. Status report. Rodriguez requested as her ship patrolled the outer system perimeter. All squadrons report ready status, replied her executive officer, a Zentaurian whose analytical abilities had been enhanced by human tactical training. Long-range sensors detect no hostile activity. Civilian traffic? 3 merchant convoys proceeding to the industrial worlds, 2 passenger liners carrying refugees from the former combat zones, and a scientific expedition exploring the remains of Devourer ships. Rodriguez nodded approvingly. The fact that civilian activities had resumed so quickly after the battle was a testament to the new Federation's protective capabilities. Under the old system, worlds threatened by the Devourers would have been evacuated and possibly abandoned permanently. On Earth, humanity had become the unofficial military advisors to 43 different alien civilizations. The planet's orbital stations hosted permanent exchange programs where Federation officers learned human tactical thinking while human instructors developed new applications for alien technologies. Dr. Elena Vasquez led one such program in her laboratory aboard Orbital Defense Station Armstrong. Her current project involved combining Zentaurian analytical capabilities with human intuitive targeting to create weapon systems that could adapt to unprecedented threats. The mathematical precision of your species, she explained to a group of mixed alien students, combined with human adaptability, creates tactical advantages that neither could achieve independently. You're not just learning our techniques, you're evolving beyond what either of our species could accomplish alone. The students, representing 8 different species, worked together on problems that would have been impossible to solve using any single species approach. They had become living proof that cooperation could enhance rather than diminish aggressive capabilities. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, now Director of Interspecies Communication, had developed communication protocols that allowed instant tactical coordination between species with completely different sensory systems and cognitive processes. Her breakthrough had been recognizing that emotional responses were more universal than logical ones. Fear, anger, protective instinct, determination, she explained to a group of new communication specialists. These emotions translate across species barriers more effectively than any logical framework. A human's protective fury toward threatened innocence triggers similar responses in alien psychology, even when the cognitive processes are completely different. The emotional unity had become the Federation's greatest strength. Species that had coexisted peacefully but separately for centuries, now formed integrated military units that fought with shared passion rather than mere cooperation. The memorial ceremony for the Kepler Defense Line casualties demonstrated this transformation. Representatives of every Federation species gathered to honor beings who had died learning to fight like humans. The ceremony itself would have been impossible under the old Federation. Different species had always maintained separate mourning traditions that couldn't be reconciled. Now, they mourned together in a ritual that combined elements from dozens of cultures, unified by their shared understanding of sacrifice for protective purposes. General Chun delivered the primary address. Her words translated not just into alien languages, but into emotional concepts that transcended species barriers. They died learning to be more than they were, she said, her voice carrying across the massive gathering. Each being who gave their life at Kepler chose to become something their species had never been before, a protector of strangers, a guardian of innocence they would never meet. The response was unprecedented in Federation history. 43 different species, using their own traditional expressions of grief and honor, created a chorus of mourning that somehow harmonized into something greater than its parts. It was the sound of a galaxy that had learned to grieve as humans grieve, not just for personal loss, but for the sacrifice of heroes. Chancellor Vextari, his skin now permanently displaying colors that had no precedent in Zentorian emotional range, delivered the closing statement. The Federation that existed before human contact was a civilization of cooperation, he said. The Federation that emerged from Kepler is a civilization of protection. We have learned that true peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of beings willing to fight for what cannot be surrendered. As the ceremony concluded, long-range sensors detected something that confirmed the transformation's success. A distress signal from beyond Federation space. An unknown species under attack by entities that resembled the extinct Devourers. The old Federation would have debated response protocols, formed committees to study the situation, and eventually provided humanitarian aid if politically feasible. The new Federation responded with immediate military deployment. Admiral Santos issued orders that would have been unthinkable months earlier. All available battle groups, prepare for immediate deployment beyond Federation space. Unknown entities threatening civilian populations require elimination. The response was instantaneous and overwhelming. 17 battle groups, representing over 2 million ships, volunteered for the mission within minutes. The Federation had internalized humanity's most fundamental principle. When innocent beings are threatened, geography and politics become irrelevant. General Chun watched the massive fleet prepare for departure, knowing that the Federation would never again be the peaceful alliance of exploration that it had been. In becoming capable of protecting itself, it had chosen to become protector of others. Any regrets? Asked Dr. Vasquez as they observed the fleet's departure preparations. None, Chun replied. We came here to help them survive. Instead, we help them become something that can ensure others survive. And humanity? Humanity found something we've been searching for since we first looked at the stars, Chun said. We found a purpose worthy of our nature. Turns out the galaxy needed protectors, and we needed something to protect. The combined fleet departed Federation space with confidence that would have been impossible before human intervention. They were no longer explorers who could fight when necessary. They had become guardians who explored when possible. Behind them, the Federation continued its transformation into something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization that had chosen to become powerful not for conquest, but for the protection of others. They had learned the most important lesson in human military philosophy. Sometimes the greatest victory is ensuring that others never have to fight alone. The galaxy would never again face threats like the Devourers without beings willing to fight like humans in defense of those who could not defend themselves. The Federation had evolved beyond mere survival into something that could ensure survival for others. In the memorial halls of Nexus Prime, a new inscription appeared beside the names of the Kepler casualties. They learned to die like humans so that others might live like free beings. It had become the Federation's new founding principle, written in the courage of beings who had discovered that some things were worth any sacrifice to protect.